The United States covers an extraordinary spread of ecosystems, running from frozen Arctic tundra all the way down to tropical shorelines. Every state comes with its own roster of animals able to do serious damage. Some states are dominated by an identical apex predator. Others face threats that exist nowhere else in the country. Today, we're crossing the entire U.S. to identify the single most dangerous animal in all 50 states. And we're opening in the Northeast. Live anywhere in northern New England, and the deadliest wild animal near you probably isn't what you'd expect, because it isn't a bear, it isn't a wolf, and it isn't a venomous snake. Across Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, that title belongs to the moose. These enormous deer stand over 2 meters at the shoulder and can reach 700 kilo, and they injure and kill more people in this region than any predator does. Maine, on its own logs, somewhere in the region of 700 vehicle collisions involving moose every single year. Because those long legs put the body at windshield level instead of bumper level, the crashes turn out far deadlier than anything involving a white-tailed deer. Hit one at highway speed, and the outcome is frequently fatal for driver and animal alike, which is why certain highway corridors running through moose country across New Hampshire and Maine have earned a reputation as danger zones, especially around dawn and dusk. Away from the road, they're also unexpectedly aggressive. Above all, cows guarding calves in spring and bulls during the autumn rut, when testosterone spikes. They charge without hesitation, they stomp, and they kick with force enough to kill a person outright. And where a bear usually telegraphs its intentions before it attacks, a moose will go from completely motionless to a full charge with essentially no warning at all. People misjudge them constantly because deer register in the mind as timid animals. A moose bears no resemblance whatsoever to a white-tailed deer, and giving one anything short of total respect is a serious error. Travel further south through the remainder of the Northeast, and the picture begins to change. Massachusetts has seen its top threat shift over recent years, driven by a remarkable rebound in gray seal numbers along Cape Cod. That rebound has drawn great white sharks in growing numbers into the shallow water just off the beaches. Then came 2018, when the state saw a fatal shark attack for the first time in over 80 years. Since then, the great white has sat unchallenged at the top of the list there. Both Connecticut and New Jersey are watching their black bear populations expand quickly, and as those bears push into suburban neighborhoods, run-ins are growing more frequent. New York repeats that same pattern, with the black bear posing the biggest single threat throughout the northern and western portions of the state, although out in the rural southeast, the timber rattlesnake remains a legitimate worry. Pennsylvania supports strong numbers of timber rattlesnakes and black bears alike, but the bear wins out thanks to how often encounters happen in residential areas. Rhode Island and Delaware, the 2 smallest states in the region, offer relatively little in terms of dangerous wildlife, though both hold copperheads and coyotes, and of the 2, the copperhead carries far more medical weight. Maryland closes out the region with black bears, increasing in its western mountains, and copperheads spread through the central and southern counties. Next, we're going south, and this is where matters get considerably more interesting. For wildlife specifically, the Southeast is arguably the most dangerous region the country has, because this is where the large reptiles and venomous snakes are packed most densely. Virginia and West Virginia both carry solid numbers of timber rattlesnakes and black bears, yet the copperhead accounts for more bites in each state than any other venomous species. That snake's camouflage is superb, disappearing completely into leaf litter and most bites happen because somebody put a foot on one out, hiking or while working in their own yard. Fortunately, measured against other pit vipers, copperhead venom is comparatively mild, and deaths from it are exceptionally uncommon. Cross the line into the Carolinas, and the range of threats starts to diversify considerably. North Carolina keeps black bears up in its mountains, copperheads throughout the Piedmont, and a modest coastal population of eastern diamondback rattlesnakes. South Carolina throws American alligators into that mix, with roughly 100,000 of them estimated across the low country and coastal zones. The eastern diamondback happens to be the biggest venomous snake anywhere in North America, able to exceed 2 nae, and its range covers both Carolinas and reaches into Georgia. In Georgia, the alligator and the diamondback are genuine rivals for the top spot, but the snake probably edges ahead purely on how regularly rural residents come across one. Tennessee and Kentucky are copperhead territory through and through, and those snakes deliver the overwhelming majority of venomous bites in both. Arkansas and Missouri hold a comparable blend of cottonmouths, copperheads, and timber rattlesnakes, though the cottonmouth likely represents the biggest danger in each, given how much swamp and waterway both states contain. Alabama and Mississippi host eastern diamondbacks, alligators, and an assortment of other venomous snakes, and there the diamondback takes the title on the strength of its size and venom potency. A mature eastern diamondback can pass 2 meters in length and inject a colossal quantity of hemotoxic venom with one strike. It ranks among the very few snakes in the country capable of killing a healthy adult, even when medical treatment arrives quickly. Then comes Louisiana, where the American alligator rules absolutely. The state holds an estimated 2 million of them, the densest concentration anywhere in the country, which means Louisiana contains more alligators than some other states contain people. You will find them in practically any fresh water going, from the vast bayous and swamps of the South down to the drainage ditches and retention ponds sitting behind suburban houses. Encounters with people are a daily event rather than an occasional one. An entire industry has grown up around managing them, including a regulated hunting season pulling tens of thousands of animals out every year. And yet, despite that population and that encounter rate, fatal attacks stay surprisingly infrequent, which speaks volumes about how effectively Louisianans have learned to coexist with these reptiles. Most people there were raised on the rules. Never swim in water you don't know, never feed a gator, and keep pets away from the edge. That inherited caution, passed from one generation to the next, is what keeps the death toll low, even with an astonishing number of alligators occupying the same landscape. But the Southeast belongs to Florida, which, where wildlife is concerned, may well be the most hazardous state in the entire country. The estimated alligator population here runs to 1.3 million animals, and no state records more attacks by them, fatal or otherwise. These animals have been found sitting in swimming pools, resting underneath parked cars, wandering across golf courses, and on occasion inside somebody's living room, seemingly untroubled by human infrastructure of any description. Among the most tragic incidents in recent memory happened on the grounds of a well-known Orlando theme park back in 2016, where a child of 2 was taken from shallow water at a resort lagoon. Management overhauled the way it handles its waterways afterwards, but it stood as a devastating reminder that Florida water is never entirely safe. Alligators are only part of it, though. No state carries a bigger invasive Burmese python population than this one, with somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 of these constrictors now established through the Everglades, where they have gutted native mammal numbers to the point that raccoons have fallen by 99% in certain areas. Add a healthy American crocodile population at the southern tip, a shark attack tally higher than any other state in the country, a venomous snake list running from the eastern diamondback through to the cottonmouth, and on rare occasions a saltwater crocodile showing up as well. Bull sharks deserve particular attention in Florida water, since they favor precisely the shallow, murky coastal zones people swim and surf in, and they are able to swim remarkable distances inland through fresh water, up rivers and along canal systems. There was even that well-known golf course, a short drive outside Brisbane, which is Australia, admittedly. But Florida has golf course shark stories of its own, because bull sharks have genuinely turned up in the water hazards of coastal courses. If any state demands that you stay switched on at all times, Florida is it. And the American alligator claims the crown, purely on encounter volume and attack frequency. Now we push into the middle of the country. The Midwest may look like a comparatively safe portion of the U.S., but there are still animals here worth watching for. The copperhead takes the venomous title in Ohio, in Indiana, and in Illinois alike, although run-ins happen far less often here than down in the southeast, a consequence of harder winters and heavily developed farmland, leaving these snakes far less room to work with. Michigan makes for an interesting case because the only venomous snake it holds is the eastern Massasauga rattlesnake, an animal carrying federal protection as a threatened species. So, while it can inflict a painful and medically serious bite, your odds of injury run higher with a black bear, either up in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula or across the Upper Peninsula, both regions where bear numbers have been climbing steadily for years. Wisconsin and Minnesota both give the top spot to the black bear among large animals, and both have recorded rising bear encounters as populations recover and housing pushes deeper into forested land. Minnesota additionally supports a solid moose population in its northeastern corner, dangerous chiefly through vehicle collisions, exactly as in the New England states covered earlier. For dangerous wildlife, Iowa ranks among the safest states anywhere in the country, where the timber rattlesnake is the most notable threat, yet sightings are so uncommon that most Iowans have never come across one in the wild. Push west into the Great Plains, and the landscape transforms, and the threats along with it. Move through Nebraska, Kansas, and the two Dakotas, and the prairie rattlesnake becomes the most dangerous animal you are realistically going to run into. These snakes range throughout the grasslands and suit dry open country well, often taking shelter in prairie dog burrows and coming out to hunt around dawn and dusk. Their venom does not match the western diamondback for raw potency, but it remains entirely capable of doing serious damage, and out in remote ranching country where medical help sits a long way off, any bite is a grave situation. South Dakota comes with the additional feature of free-roaming bison in locations such as Custer State Park and the country surrounding Badlands National Park, animals that have injured tourists who wandered too close on more than one occasion. Something about the sight of a bison makes people forget they are standing near a wild animal of 900 kilograms that can outrun an Olympic sprinter. And every single year, somebody works that out the hard way. Oklahoma belongs to the western diamondback rattlesnake, a snake that runs bigger, behaves more aggressively, and carries stronger venom than its prairie rattlesnake cousin further north. Oklahoma also carries cottonmouths and copperheads throughout its eastern half, which leaves the eastern side of the state considerably more hazardous for snakebite than the prairies out west. Next stop, the Southwest, and here is where reptile diversity genuinely takes off. Texas earns a section of its own, since it sits directly behind Florida for sheer danger, and the sheer breadth of what can hurt you here is honestly impressive. The Lone Star State carries the full set. Feral hogs number in the millions here, part of a national population estimated around 9 million that does over $1 billion of damage every year and has killed people on more than one occasion. Texas also holds more venomous snake species than any other state, upward of a dozen, plus a substantial alligator population working the Gulf Coast and the eastern bayous, and the odd shark attack along a shoreline running some 600 kilometers. Then there's the fire ant, which has built colonies across the state and gets blamed for something in the region of 30 to 60 fatalities nationwide annually through allergic reaction, Texas ranking among the hardest hit. But the top spot in Texas goes to the western diamondback rattlesnake, behind most of the state's snakebite fatalities and present in staggering numbers through the center and west of the state. The yearly rattlesnake roundup, held in Sweetwater, collects tens of thousands of them, which tells you plenty about their abundance. Whatever controversy surrounds those events, they demonstrate one straightforward fact. Across much of the state, western diamondbacks are simply everywhere, and meeting one is simply part of life for anybody spending real hours outdoors. New Mexico and Arizona contend with many of the same dangers: the Mojave rattlesnake, the western diamondback, and the Gila monster among them, that last one being one of just 2 venomous lizards that are native to the North American continent. Arizona, though, carries a threat that separates it from every other state. No scorpion anywhere in the United States carries more potent venom than the Arizona bark scorpion, and a sting from one brings severe pain, numbness, and convulsions, with death remaining a rare but genuine outcome, most often among the very young and the very old. Before any antivenom existed, a bark scorpion sting counted as a genuine medical emergency. Even now, Arizona logs thousands of scorpion stings annually, which makes it one of the most frequent animal-related medical problems the state deals with. These small arachnids turn up inside houses, down in footwear, tucked into bedding, and virtually anywhere else those flattened bodies can wedge themselves into, which is precisely what makes avoiding them so difficult. The bark scorpion takes Arizona for one straightforward reason: the sheer frequency with which people are stung, and how many of those stings send someone for treatment. Nevada finishes the Southwest off with the Mojave rattlesnake, holder of what is arguably the strongest venom carried by any rattlesnake in the country. That venom contains hemotoxins and neurotoxins together, an unusual and especially dangerous pairing that complicates treatment and makes bites markedly more lethal than those from other rattlesnakes. Now into the Mountain West, where the terrain belongs to a pair of iconic animals that most people would place at the very top of any list of dangerous American animals. Across Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, the grizzly bear owns that position without argument. 2 regions hold the biggest grizzly populations left in the lower 48. One is the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, the other the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem, and between them they generate more conflict between bears and people than anywhere else in the country. A grizzly can exceed 360 kilograms and stand close to 3 minutes upright on its hind legs, and one at a full charge covers ground at up to 55 wow, well beyond anything a human can manage. On average, they account for somewhere around 2 to 3 deaths a year across the U.S., and what really separates them is how severe their attacks are. A black bear can sometimes be intimidated, shouted at, driven off. A grizzly that is committed to an attack is nearly impossible to stop short of bear spray or a firearm. The overwhelming majority of deaths involve a hiker or a hunter startling a bear from close quarters, and especially a female with cubs beside her, where the animal's response is immediate and defensive rather than predatory. Wyoming carries an extra complication in the form of Yellowstone's bison, animals that put more visitors in hospital each year than the bears manage to. The grizzly holds the crown regardless, on the strength of how lethal its attacks prove to be. A bison injury is serious but survivable in nearly every case. A grizzly attack carries a dramatically higher death rate. Colorado belongs to the mountain lion, holding one of the densest populations of these cats anywhere in the nation. Attacks stay rare, though they certainly do happen, and Colorado has produced several of the most widely reported incidents of recent decades, including one genuinely remarkable episode from 2019 in which a trail runner fought a young mountain lion off and killed it using nothing but his bare hands. They hunt from ambush, coming in from behind and typically going straight for the neck and the skull, which leaves trail runners, joggers, and small children most exposed of all. Running is itself enough to trigger the predatory response, which is exactly why the standing advice runs two ways. Never turn away from one, and never break into a run if you spot one close by. Utah presents a comparable pairing. Mountain lions alongside rattlesnakes, and while the Great Basin rattlesnake is the venomous species spread most widely across the state, the cat claims this one too. Now we're heading for the Pacific coast. California carries an astonishing variety of dangerous wildlife, and it belongs to a small group of states where the answer to this question changes completely, depending on which corner of it you happen to be standing in. Up along the northern and central coastline, it is the great white shark that leads, with California consistently ranking among the country's leading states for shark attacks. Out past San Francisco, the water surrounding the Farallon Islands counts among the best-known great white hotspots on Earth, where elephant seal colonies draw in some genuinely enormous sharks. Surfers working the Central Coast have long since made their peace with that risk, but attacks do happen, and when they do, the results can be devastating. Move inland, and the mountain lion becomes the dominant predator, with California supporting one of the largest populations in the country, estimated somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 animals. As housing pushes deeper into lion territory, encounters keep increasing, and recent years have brought several widely reported attacks involving joggers and hikers. Head down into the southern deserts and the western diamondback rattlesnake becomes the leading danger. But weighing up attacks and fatalities across the whole state, the mountain lion narrowly claims the title, owing to the widening overlap between its range and urban development, and because an ambush hunter is exceptionally hard to defend against. Oregon and Washington deal with a near-identical set of dangers, the mountain lion and the black bear heading the list in both. Over recent decades, Washington has logged a higher count of documented lion attacks than Oregon, and the Cascade Range there offers ideal cover for these secretive cats. Rattlesnakes occupy the drier eastern portions of both states, though encounters are nowhere near as common as in the Southwest. Great white sharks do reach Oregon's coastal waters, wandering north out of California, but attacks remain rare compared with what happens further south. For the final section, we're visiting the two states that border nothing at all, and each is unique in its own fashion. Alaska sits in a category by itself for dangerous wildlife, and it's about as close to genuine wilderness frontier as the U.S. gets. The largest brown bears on the planet live here, with the coastal animals of Kodiak Island and Katmai reaching weights beyond 600 kilos. They grow considerably larger than the inland grizzlies you find in Montana and Wyoming, and meeting a Kodiak bear somewhere confined, a salmon stream, for instance, ranks among the most dangerous positions you can put yourself in anywhere on this continent. Surprisingly, though, moose injure more people in Alaska than brown bears do. Moose attacks there happen regularly, above all around Anchorage, where they drift through residential streets, across school grounds, and into parking lots, and will charge anybody who closes the distance. A cow standing over her calf ranks among the deadliest things you can walk into anywhere in Alaska, and a single kick is enough to kill. Even so, the brown bear takes Alaska because of how severe and how lethal its attacks are. Polar bears occupy the northern coastline too, concentrated up around Barrow and out across the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Of every bear species on Earth, this is the only one that will actively size a human up as food, which means encountering one out in the open puts your life in danger from the first second. Encounters stay extremely rare, though, given how remote and thinly populated their range happens to be, and that is why the brown bear keeps the title. And finally, there is Hawaii, a genuinely fascinating case, because on land, these islands hold virtually nothing dangerous at all. Setting aside the Hawaiian hoary bat, native land mammals do not exist here. Neither do venomous snakes, large predators, or bears of any description. Everything dangerous in Hawaii is in the water. The bulk of attacks in Hawaiian water come down to tiger sharks, and per head of population, the state posts one of the highest attack rates anywhere in the country. The water around Maui is especially notorious, and attacks tend to climb in autumn as tiger sharks move into the shallows to give birth and feed. Worldwide, no shark ranks above them for danger to humans except the great white. Where a great white will often bite and release once it registers that a person isn't its preferred prey, tiger sharks are far less selective and tend to keep feeding. Box jellyfish turn up on the south-facing beaches of Oahu with startling regularity, arriving somewhere around 8 to 10 days behind every full moon, and a sting delivers severe pain, with cardiac complications following in extremely rare cases. Portuguese man-of-war wash up on the beaches with some regularity, and out in the reefs there are cone snails perfectly capable of delivering a fatal sting to anyone who picks one up. Still, the tiger shark remains Hawaii's most dangerous animal, and it makes a fitting close to this journey across the country. On islands that never had a dangerous land mammal to begin with, respect gets paid to the water instead. The same crystal-clear water drawing millions of tourists every year is the water these apex predators call home. Naturally, with 50 states to get through, some of these had to stay short, and I have no doubt some of you will take issue with a few of my picks. If you have thoughts or suggestions of your own, drop them down in the comments below. For now, though, thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.